quorum call be vitiated?
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, wish to speak as if in morning business?
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, our country is 2 weeks away from a deadline date. And this deadline is approaching because of Washington's constant inaction. Now, to me, this deadline has to do with our national debt. Now, the President, on the other hand, says it has to do with our debt limit, the amount of money that we are allowed by law to borrow. I believe it has to do with the amount of money we have already borrowed and the amount of money they want to continue to borrow. I believe as Americans we can do better. I believe as Americans we must do better. Our country needs for us to act. Now, the President has repeatedly said that we have to deal with this issue now. Last week he asked the most fundamental question. He said, if not now, when? Because the clock is ticking. We got a wake-up call from Medicare not too long ago when we find out that it will be bankrupt 5 years sooner than they initially thought, just over a decade from now. You know, as a doctor who's practiced medicine a long time, I will tell you we have to strengthen Medicare. We know that in 25 years the same will happen to Social Security. Now, unlike our debt limit, which Congress can legislate away, strengthening Medicare, saving Social Security, that can't simply be legislated away. We have to act now to prevent these programs from failing not just people on those programs today, but also future generations. You know, the President has observed that we are in the 11th hour when it comes to our debt ceiling. And the only clear path to raise the debt ceiling that has passed either House of Congress is the proposal that passed the House of Representatives last night, the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act. This act would only raise the debt ceiling if we put our country on the fast track back to fiscal sanity. And that's where we need to be, on the track to fiscal sanity. It is an approach that the American people will tell you we need now more than ever. Our creditors are getting restive. This week, the Fitch credit ratings warned that if the United States does not take action to avoid default, we could lose our AAA credit rating. Standard & Poor's has already warned that unless we cut our budget, our credit rating could be at risk. Wasteful Washington spending has already saddled our children with over $14 trillion of debt. If we default, this spending may also force them to pay punishingly high interest rates that will drain American dollars from our already sluggish economy. Madam President, I believe we will not default. You know, we're already paying $6,000 a second on interest alone on our debt. You know, for those of us with children, we know what this impact is going to be on them years and years into the future. Well, the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act would put us on the path to resolving the issue by cutting spending immediately, by capping spending in the future, and by finally forcing Washington to live within its means. You know, this is the sort of law that the country needs and that the President should actually welcome. But what has the President done? Well, he's threatened to veto this law, he said, if it crosses his desk. The President has threatened to veto the only plan that actually solves the problem that has passed either House of Congress. Why? Well, the administration emphasizes public opinion as their reason for opposing the hard choices required by our debt crisis. But yet the President said they're opposed to a balanced budget constitutional amendment. Well, in a recent Mason-Dixon poll, 65% of Americans say they support a balanced budget constitutional amendment. So where is that respect that the President talks about for public opinion? Finally, the administration has hidden behind catchphrases rather than debate the merits of cut and cap and balance. They refer to it as a different name. Well, when I hear the White House spokesman talk about cut, cap, and balance in a different way, I say, how is ducking the issue to confront both our spending problem and the debt ceiling head on? That's not ducking the issue. That's facing the issue. When the President's spokesman talks about dodging the issue, I will say, how is it a dodge to support common sense solutions to our spending addiction like a balanced budget amendment? And then he used the phrase about dismantling. I said, well, how does stopping our government from going bankrupt count as dismantling? The White House has even admitted that they don't have a plan. You know what? They don't think they need one. Is that astonishing? The White House, the United States, most powerful country in the world, the White House doesn't think they need a plan at the 11th hour? The White House press secretary just recently said, leadership is not proposing a plan for the sake of having it voted up or down and likely voted down. The budget that was brought to this floor, the President's budget, failed 0 to 97. Not one Republican voted for it. Not one Democrat voted for it. No one voted for what the President had proposed. No one of either party. Perhaps the President ought to propose something new. Holding our country hostage to irresponsible Washington spending while trying to hit the economy with tax hikes isn't leadership. It's denying the reality. Refusing to put forward a plan to resolve our spending crisis isn't leadership. It's deferring to consequences. Making the economy worse the way this administration has done for the past 2 years isn't leadership, and it is hurting our country. The President's policies have made it worse, made the economy worse, made health care worse, made energy availability worse, housing worse. The policies have made it worse. This administration can accuse cut, cap, and balance of ducking, and they can accuse it of dodging, and they can accuse it of dismantling. But the strategy coming out of the White House seems to be duck and cover. That's what we're seeing. Anyone who knows the math knows that this strategy was never acceptable before, and it is doubly unacceptable now. The amount of debt that we owe right now today is so high that it is hurting employment at home. Experts tell us that our debt is costing us millions of jobs, a million jobs. Spending like this makes it harder for the private sector to create new jobs. And the unemployment numbers that just came out show us at 9.2% unemployment. With that kind of unemployment, energy prices high, people noticing it in the quality of their life, it's harder for American families to buy gas, buy groceries, buy cars, homes, pay tuition for their kids to go to college, and it's harder to create jobs for those kids who will be graduating this year and next year and every year until we get the spending under control. And debt isn't just a disaster for the distant future. Our debt is irresponsible. Our debt is unsustainable. And you know, even our military leaders have condemned it. Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has said the biggest threat to our national security is our debt. The debt is the threat. It is not our enemies who are defeating us. It is our spending that is hurting us so very much. And it is time for America to fight back. That's why I am supporting and have co-sponsored cut, cap, and balance, and will vote for it on the floor of the United States Senate. This piece of legislation takes common sense steps to get our country out of debt. It will immediately reduce spending by over $100 billion as a down payment on our children's future. It will place a hard cap on spending so that it never reaches the unsustainable heights of the past 2 years again. It will send a balanced budget constitutional amendment to the American people for ratification, and it will prevent us from defaulting on our debt. Passing this law is the kind of leadership that America deserves. And if the President wants to show he understands leadership, he should retract his veto threat and support this approach. And I absolutely will support it when it comes to this body. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Madam President.
Senator from Louisiana.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise to again.
We are in a quorum call.
Excuse me, Madam President. I ask unanimous consent to vitiate the quorum.
Without objection.
Thank you. And now, Madam President, I rise to ask support, bipartisan support, for the Vitter amendment, which we'll be voting on at 12 noon. This amendment is very simple. It's very straightforward, but I think it's important and makes a central point. The amendment says that these funds in this bill will not be spent unless and until we have a 2012 budget, unless we start with first things first and decide what the overall budget framework is and then move forward with spending with appropriation bills consistent with that budget. And that's all it says, simple, straightforward point, but an important point. Madam President, folks around America, including in the market, are scratching their heads. They look at Washington, they look at us, they look at Congress and the President and see almost complete dysfunction. And this complete lack of a budget, even lack of an attempt to get a budget in place, is a glaring, maybe the top example of that. Now, this isn't just a good common sense idea, something every family does, something every small business does. This also happens to be required by federal law. As you know, Madam President, the Federal Budget Act mandates that we pass a budget by April 15th of every year. We haven't done that. The House passed a budget. The Senate, quite frankly, has not even tried. The Senate Budget Committee has not even met to begin to do that in regular order through the normal process. In fact, Madam President, it's worse than that. The Senate didn't even try to do that last year under the same current leadership. And so we're now over 800 days and counting that the Senate under this leadership has not even tried to comply with federal law and adopt a budget. So again, Madam President, my amendment is very simple. It says first things first. We need a budget so that any appropriation bill, any spending, is only done consistent with and in the context of that budget. That's the right way to do things. That's the right way to run a railroad. That's what every Louisiana family does in setting its plans. That's what every Louisiana business does in setting its plans. And that's what the American people and the markets want from us. Madam President, the last few weeks there's been great discussion about Moody's and Standard & Poor's and threats to downgrade their grade on U.S. Treasury notes and our debt. And what they've been saying is loud and clear. And it's not a pure focus on the debt ceiling. It's an even more important focus as well on the underlying issue of spending and debt. They have been saying what every economist also says, we're on a completely unsustainable path in terms of spending and debt, and they want to see a real change in that, the start of a real change adding up to at least $4 trillion of deficit reduction. We need to do that. And step one to doing that, step one to coping, is to have a budget. You can't begin to do that without a budget plan, without an outline. And again, that goes to the core, the simple, fundamental, straightforward, but important point of this Vitter amendment. I urge my colleagues to put first things first. I urge my colleagues to say we need to start doing our business starting with a 2012 budget. Thank you, Madam President. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka. ask consent the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
Madam President, I have 9 unanimous consent requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They are approved by both the majority and minority leaders. I ask unanimous consent these requests be agreed to and printed in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Madam President,
Senator from Illinois.
I ask consent to vitiate the quorum and be recognized.
Without objection.
Madam President, we are wrapping up to a vote that we hope will occur on Senator Vitter's amendment at noon. I'd just like to summarize where we are. We are completing debate on the bill that provides funding for the Veterans Administration and our military construction needs. This is the bill that backs up our over 22 million veterans who served our country. The reason why I and the Republicans on the Appropriations Committee unanimously supported this bill is that it is marked to the House budget resolution, the Paul Ryan budget resolution number. We cut funding by $1.2 billion in budget authority discretionary numbers below the President's level. This bill comes in $620 million below the 2011 enacted level, and it's even $2.6 million below the House-passed level just adopted Chairman Culberson's bill in the House of Representatives earlier this year. Now, the Senate voted by a vote of 71 to 26 for cloture to bring this bill up. This is the first of the working appropriations bill. I hope there are many others. The legislation, I think, is important. People may ask the question, how did we make the funding cuts to come in at the House level? And the answer is that Chairman Johnson and I made some difficult decisions. We cut 24 separate military construction programs. A list is available in the report that accompanies this bill. We made some very tough calls regarding spending that was proposed for Bahrain, for Germany, and for Korea. There was a worthwhile project proposed for the Court of Veterans Appeals. They wanted a brand new building and a courtroom. That was denied outright. Those tough decisions, those 24 reductions, denying a new Court of Veterans Appeals building, making those cuts necessary, then brought us under the House level as approved by the Paul Ryan budget. I'll just remind members the legislation is now endorsed by the VFW, AMVETS, the Disabled American Veterans, the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. It had the unanimous support of Republicans in the subcommittee and in the full committee, and because it comes in at the House budget level, that's why I think it's necessary to move forward, especially as we talk about a budget crisis in which checks may or may not go out. I very much hope they do. I think it's an important signal for the Senate to send that a Paul Ryan-approved budget number, which is what this bill is at, goes forward, that ensures 2012 appropriated funding for our veterans and the military construction needs of our men and women in uniform. And with that, I yield the floor.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
pending business?
Under the previous order, the question is on the Vitter amendment.
Mr. President, the Vitter amendment pending before the Senate is another attempt to derail the progress that we have made in a bipartisan fashion on the MilCon-VA bill. The Senate has voted twice on this issue during consideration of this bill. At the outset of debate, the ranking member of the Budget Committee raised a point of order against consideration of this bill without prior adoption of a budget resolution. I made a motion to waive that budget point of order, and the Senate voted 71 to 26 to cut up debate on the motion to waive. The Senate then agreed to waive the point of order 56 to 40. Now we have an amendment that says that none of the critical funding provided in the bill can be obligated in excess of a budget resolution that does not exist. The strictest interpretation of this means that the VA can't spend money in benefits for vets, and our military can't construct new training, housing, or other critical facilities until we have a concurrent budget agreement. I don't disagree that it is important to pass a budget, but the Senate has overwhelmingly voted to move this bill so as to not delay essential funding for our troops and vets while negotiations on the debt ceiling and budget continue. I remind my colleagues that this bill is $618 million below the current level, $1.25 billion below the President's budget request, and $2.6 million below the House-passed bill. This is a responsible and bipartisan bill, and the pending amendment would stop all progress we have made. Therefore, I move to table the amendment number 568 and ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? Is there a sufficient second? There is a sufficient second. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka, Mr. Alexander, Ms. Ayotte, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Baucus, Mr. Bekich, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Bingaman, Mr. Blumenthal, Mr. Blunt, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Boxer, Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, Mr. Brown of Ohio, Mr. Burr, Ms. Cantwell, Mr. Cardin, Mr. Carper, Mr. Casey, Mr. Chambliss, Mr. Coates. No. Mr. Coburn. Mr. Cochran. Ms. Collins. Mr. Conrad. Mr. Coons. Mr. Corker. Mr. Cornyn. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Dement. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Enzi. Mrs. Feinstein. Mr. Franken. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mrs. Hagan, Mr. Harkin, Mr. Hatch, Mr. Heller, Mr. Hoven, Mrs. Hutchison, Mr. Inhofe, Mr. Noe, Mr. Isaacson, Mr. Joe Hands, Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin, Mr. Johnson of South Dakota, Mr. Carey, Mr. Kirk, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Cole, Mr. Kyle, Ms. Landrieu, Mr. Lautenberg, Mr. Leahy, Mr. Lee, Mr. Levin, Mr. Lieberman, Mr. Lugar, Mr. Manchin, Mr. McCain, Mrs. McCaskill, Mr. McConnell, Mr. Menendez, Mr. Merkley, Ms. Mikulski,
I'll get you one if I can.
Mr. Merkley, Ms. Mikulski, Mr. Moran, Ms. Murkowski, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Nelson of Nebraska, Mr. Nelson of Florida, Mr. Paul, Mr. Portman, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Reed of Rhode Island, Mr. Reed of Nevada, Mr. Risch, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Rockefeller, Mr. Rubio, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Sessions, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Shelby, Ms. Snow, Ms. Stabenow, Mr. Tester, Mr. Thune, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Udall of Colorado, Mr. Udall of New Mexico, Mr. Vitter, Mr. Warner, Mr. Webb, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden. Senators voting in the affirmative: Bennett, Bingaman, Blumenthal, Cardin, Franken, Gillibrand, Johnson of South Dakota, Kirk, McCain, McCaskill, Murray, Reed of Rhode Island, Whitehouse, and Wicker. Mr. Brown of Ohio, aye. Mr. Isaacson, aye. Mr. Chambliss, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Coates, Dement, Grassley, Hatch, Inhofe, Johans, Kyle, Portman, Shelby, and Vitter. Mr. Corker, no. Mr. Tester, aye. Mr. Heller? Mr. Heller, aye. Mr. Manchin, aye. Mr. Cochran? Mr. Cochran, aye. Mr. Baucus, aye. Mr. Leahy, aye. Mr. Brown of Massachusetts, aye. Mr. Nelson? Mr. Nelson of Florida, aye. Mr. Cole, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mr. Pryor, aye. Mrs. Feinstein? Mrs. Feinstein, aye. Mr. Lee, no. Ms. Landrieu? Ms. Landrieu, aye. Ms. Snow, no. Mrs. Hagan, aye. Mr. Sanders, aye. Mr. Udall, Colorado, aye. Ms. Mikulski? Ms. Mikulski, Aye. Mr. Webb? Aye. Mr. Levin? Mr. Levin? Aye. Mr. Carey? Mr. Carey? Aye. Mr. Durbin? Mr. Durbin? Aye. Mr. No Way? Aye. Mr. Hoven? Mr. Hoven? Aye. Mr. Graham? Mr. Graham? Aye. Mr. Risch? Mr. Risch? No. Mr. Lugar? Mr. Lugar? No. Mr. Coburn? No. Mrs. Boxer? Mrs. Boxer? Aye. Ms. Moran? Mr. Moran? No. Mr. Blunt? No. Mr. Roberts? Mr. Roberts? No. Mr. Johnson of Wisconsin? No. Mr. Barrasso? Mr. Barrasso? No. Mr. Wyden? Mr. Wyden? Aye. Mr. Udall of New Mexico? Aye. Ms. Ayotte? No. Mr. Toomey? No. Mr. Paul? No. Mr. Rockefeller? Mr. Rockefeller? Aye. Mr. Beckidge? Aye. Mr. Casey? Mr. Casey? Aye. Mr. Burr? Aye. Ms. Klobuchar? Aye. Mr. Carper? Aye. Mr. Akaka? Aye. Ms. Rubio? Mr. Rubio? No. Mr. Menendez? Aye. Mr. Sessions? Mr. Sessions? No. Mr. McConnell? Mr. McConnell? No. Mr. Nelson of Nebraska? Aye. Mr. Alexander? Aye. Ms. Collins? Aye. Mr. Crapo? No. Ms. Cantwell? Aye. Mr. Lieberman? Mr. Lieberman? Aye. Mr. Cornyn? Aye. Mr. Coons? Aye. Mr. Merkley? Aye. Mr. Kyle? No. Ms. Murkowski? Aye. Ms. Stabenow? Aye. Mr. Lautenberg? Aye. Mr. Thune? No. Mr. Schumer? Aye. Mr. Harkin? Aye. Mr. Enzi? Mr. Enzi? No. Mrs. Hutcherson? Aye. Mr. Conrad? Aye. Mr. Warner? Mr. Warner? Aye. Mr. Reed of Nevada? Aye.
Are there any senators wishing to change his or her vote or to vote? Hearing no voices, the vote is 69 ayes, the nays are 30. The motion to table has been approved. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered, made, and laid upon the table.
I move the absence of quorum. I suggest.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.